So we appreciate what we've heard this morning, how important it is. These are things we don't always think about from day to day that are going on right here amongst us. So it's always important to be reminded of just how serious some things are. And we store it in the back of our mind, but we as the church have a lot of duties and a lot of different responsibilities. And as serious as all that was, and you listen to those statistics, and I'm a numbers person, so that sinks in with me, but to think of how many people leave this world and die unprepared and go to a place called hell each and every day. We'd probably be mind blown if we knew what that number was. But we don't know the condition of the soul. It's not left for us to know. Only God knows that. But we have a part to do, and I hope and pray that we're thinking very often, praying toward what we could do to be a help in the Lord's plan. Now, I was hoping maybe that Brother Marvin would preach today, but it'll be all right. I'll do my best. Been outside the last 2 days quite a bit and having to use a steroid inhaler that takes my voice away, so just bear with me, and I'll do the best I can. But this verse come to me this week, and I've been reading, and it stuck out, and I want you to turn to it. It's in Jeremiah chapter 6, and it's the 16th verse, and I'll give you just a minute to turn to it. But I first remember sitting in a living room of a friend of mine's house, and we were discussing this verse, and at the time when we read this and were discussing it, I didn't fully understand what it meant, but as time has went on, this is a verse that I've thought on quite often. I don't know that I've ever read it, maybe once before, but we'll do our very best for a few minutes. I won't be before you very long. You all pray. I would really love to see somebody saved at some point, but the church has a part in that. And we have to desire that and press toward it. But in this particular verse, it reads like this, 6th chapter, Jeremiah, 16th verse. Thus saith the Lord, stand ye in the ways and see, and ask for the old paths, where is the good way? And walk therein, and ye shall find rest for your souls. But they said, we will not walk therein. Now, to be told and given instructions by the Lord, and you read that last part to say, we will not walk therein. It seems hard to imagine that we can look the Lord in the eye and tell him that we're not going to do it. Whatever it is he gives us to do, to say, no, we're not going to do that, it seemed like that would just be hard to do. But most of the time, if we wake up and our feet hit the floor and we go about our day and we fail to pray and we fail to live in a manner that would be pleasing to God, we've more or less done the same thing that the children of Israel did. They were given commands and the way was set up for them. And I want you to know that the red carpet wasn't rolled out before them, but they had a guide and an instruction for everything they needed to lead this world and be the light of the world, that all the other nations could see God through them. Now, the generation that stands out to me in particular, if you go back to when the children of Israel were in bondage, and I want you to listen just for a few minutes, and I promise you that I'll get out of the way. But when you go back to when they were in bondage, and they cried out, and God heard their cry, and he brought them from Egypt out into a land that was promised unto them by their fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Now, the land was already given unto them. They've seen miracles in that before them, that they may know that God was God and that these other gods that the Egyptians had worshipped had no power. They were firsthand eyewitnesses, accounted these things that they had seen and witnessed God work right before them, There's probably no other generation before that other than Noah that had just seen God work right before their eyes. We're talking thousands, hundreds of thousands of people that seen the work of the Lord right before their eyes. And one day they were headed out of a country they were in bondage in into a place where they had been promised freedom and that God would be there and dwell with them and be their God, and they would be His people. All right, now they are headed to this place, and you read the story about how they come in and out of there, but we get to a particular place in Numbers, and where God told His people, and I'll get back to what I read here in just a little while, but God told His people there, He told Moses, He said, here is what I want you to do. The land that I have given you is not too far off here. I want you to choose you out men out of each tribe, and I want you to send them as spies into that country that I've promised you. And told them to take a ruler of the people of each tribe. Now, these are people who other people in the camp looked to, other people maybe had high opinion of, or they valued, and they're going out, and the Bible names these people from each tribe that were going into this land. And Moses told them, he said, when you get into that land, here's what you need to do. Check out the land to see if it's good, to see if it's fruitful. He said, talk to the people, see, or when you look at the people, see what kind of men they are. Are they strong? Are they weak? What kind of city is it? Is it walled? Does it have walls or not? He said, find out all you can about that place and come back and give a report. Now, what I read to you this morning said, stand ye in the ways and see and ask for the old paths. Now, when I read that as a kid, I thought that I'd always hear about the old-timey way, and I'd hear about how it was in the old days, and I thought that the spirit that I was longing for was, we made it sound like it was something in the past that we couldn't reach anymore. And people traditionalized it and said back in the old days and the old-timey way and the old gospel. I want you to know this morning that God has not changed from the day of Genesis until now. He is still God, the same today, yesterday, and tomorrow. We as the people are the ones that change, not God. When I read that as a kid, I thought, well, that's what they're talking about, that old-timey way. What this means is, you translate stand ye in the ways. You take the word ways, and you translate that in Hebrew, it means road. And you go on down, and it says, and ask for the old paths, where's the good way, and walk therein, and you shall find rest for your souls. When you're standing at the road, and that word old translates to eternal, an eternal path. That means in everything we do, when you come to the roads of life, and you don't know which way to turn and which way to go or what decision to make, or how to be alive, or what's wrong or what's right, and you're not sure, stand in the eternal path. What is that? This book and God, that is the old way today. What worked for Abraham when he took Isaac up there and he said, son, God will provide. That's part of the old path. Looking to God in each and every single thing that you do. That's a part of the old path, the eternal path. What worked then still works now. Preacher, what are you getting at? It still takes God to do anything today. It's not an old way. It's the same way. But we can look back on this book, the evidence of thousands of years ago, and find answers still today in what we need to do. People, I've been to churches in different places, and it seemed like it would never fail over the years. Somebody would stand and say, well, we just ain't never going to have that old time way again. I get that people leave this world, and there's more and more good people leaving this world, and we can't just replicate or replace them. I understand that. But don't tell me, as long as we're still living and have the breath of life, that God still can't do some of the same things He did back then. But we as the people, as we stand in the road and look to what decisions to make in our life, as we stand there, we need to look at what's been done before us, what has worked. Look to that for answers today. It's not the old-timey way that did it. It's the ways of God that did it, and that'll still do it today. So they sent spies out into this land, and they're going out through there, and it was the time of first ripe grapes, and they loaded a bushel of them things on their shoulder to bring back, and it was evidence of how good the land was. If you have lived close to God in your life, there's evidence, there's fruit, not a natural fruit, but spiritual evidence of what God has done for you in your life. But as those people came back and began to give a good report, Moses was sitting there listening, and it sounded all good at first. They told him that the city was walled up and ready, said that there was fruit beyond fruit, said that everything there, it was a land that flowed with milk and honey. But then they began to talk about the people there. Said they're pretty strong. And there's giants. And we can't overcome them. But there was one there. Said that Caleb and Joshua, if you read about them, said that one of them there stealed the people. And said, now listen to me, we are well able to take this place. If God delight in us, we're well able to take this place and go into it and inhabit it. And I want you to realize this is a generation of people who watched God plague the Egyptians right before their eyes, that had seen God drive them out through the Red Sea and watch the wall of water on both sides collapse and take the enemy, who had seen a pillar of a cloud lead them in the day and a pillar of fire lead them at night, who have been told that God has a land for them. This is the same generation of people who are eyewitnesses to every bit of this, who now think that God is not enough. Amen. Not enough to overcome those people and overtake that land, even though it was promised to who? To them. That just don't make any sense until you stop and think about the life that we live. God has saved our soul, kept us from a place called hell, has been good to us, forgiven us of our sins. And whatever it is we're facing right now, it seems like, well, He can't do that again. God's done all these things for us, and you think that He can't do for you now? You think, I tell you, all that goes on sometimes, it clutters this mind and confuses us. But if you can get all that out of the way, seek out the old path, the eternal path, look to the good book, and pray to God for instruction and guidance. You think that God can't help you overcome whatever it is you're facing now? I'm here to tell you today that He can and He will, but you have to do your part today. You have to take your part in that. What I read to you says, stand ye in the way. We're quick to just run to the first thing we see. Sometimes we need to stand still, as the song says, and wait on God to show us what direction to go. And then it goes on to say, and see. See whatever it is God's showing you, and ask. That's part of the problem today. We don't ask. We go with what we want or what we think or what somebody else says. Ask God today which direction you need to go. The children of Israel had been promised a land, were eyewitnesses to everything that had been done to this point, and were afraid of the people and those giants over there. And the next day they began to cry and mourn. They were so upset. And you know what they began to say? We would have been better off back in Egypt. We'd have been better off back there. That's the first thing that they always cried out. Well, we'd have been better off back there. Now, I'm here to tell you this morning, you wouldn't be better off without God. You wouldn't be better off without the church. And you know you wouldn't be better off without your salvation. We've got a right of way to a land that was promised to us, laying out before us one day, a place called heaven. I think if God can seal our soul to the day of redemption till we reach heaven one day, I think He can help you overcome whatever it is you're facing right now. We as the people have got weak. The devil has giants out there before us, laid out things before this. This world is full of turmoil. People don't love one another. People don't like one another. Everything's against everything. Stand still in the way and ask for God to show you what it is you can do in your life, and forget about the rest of that. God is still God today. We're supposed to be His people. We're supposed to have faith and confidence that through Him and by Him, we can overcome anything. Nothing is impossible with God. So whatever it is the devil's lied to you about today, I don't know what it is. I don't know who you are. This is just what the Lord gave me. You can overcome it. I laid around a week and a half, 2 ago, and thought about all the different problems that people have in their lives. And before the hour was up, me and the devil had talked myself into believing that everybody's problems were all my fault, and I'd be better off if I just quit pastoring, quit preaching, and just stay out of the way. It was all my fault. You know what I had to do? I had to stand still and talk to God and get the devil out of the way for a little while. We can't listen to God when we got the devil right beside us conversating with us. But we can get ourselves in that shape pretty quick when we talk to the devil. Just can't overcome it, can't do it, can't go no further. But we can today if we turn to God. Those people tore up, mourned, and Joshua and Caleb, they tried their best. They said, listen, we can do this. God will find delight in us and give us this land. And they began to bait, stone them with stones. That's how weak they were. They didn't want to hear it. It upset them. They didn't think they could go into that land. If we're headed toward heaven and we believe that, I believe we can enter into some good places on this side of life. I do. But we have to stand and ask for it. Acknowledge God. That last part of what I read to you, this is what Israel did all, I've told you before, up and down, up and down. But here's what sent them down every time. But they said, we will not walk therein. It wasn't that the Spirit was stronger 50 years ago. It wasn't that the Spirit was stronger in the book of Acts. It's the people we read about and their faith they had, their walk, their journey, the confidence they had in the Lord, and their obedience that got them there. Today, it's not because it's 2024 and who the president is or who's running for president or what's going on in another country or who the leader of the Taliban. Ain't none of that ever meant anything. God's got a hand in all of that. But when it comes to living for God, it's right down in here and it's on us. God's not withdrew His Spirit. If He was done with us, this thing would be over with. We, the people, have to do what it said. Stand and seek out the old path, an eternal path, the one that has stood the test of time from Genesis to Revelation till now. And when God says it's enough, it'll be enough. But we've not reached that day yet. The church has to keep on going. The devil will tell you we're not going to see anybody saved. The devil will tell you your problems in your life ain't going to get fixed. The devil will tell you that God's not going to heal the sick. He's not going to do this. He will tell you everything he can to discourage you. But if you get him out of the way and stand still and ask God and look for that old path, you'll find an answer. And if you don't, there's punishment. That generation that had witnessed so much, and I'm coming to a close, that generation of people that had witnessed the Red Sea come up like a wall, that had seen those plagues in Egypt, that had seen that pillar of a cloud, pillar of a fire, who brought back the grapes and had laid their eyes on those grapes from that land that was promised to them. They had to wander around miserable for 40 years and die out before the children of God could enter into a land that was promised to them. Don't wander around your whole life when you could have been living good for God, enjoying some things on this side of life. What did it say? Where is the good way? And walk therein, and you shall find rest for your souls. Ain't it good to just rest every now and then? You know what rest is spiritually? It's peace. People looking for peace all in this world and ain't going to find it. But if we're obedient and live for God and walk in His ways, look to those eternal ways, those eternal paths that's been there since the beginning of time, we'll have peace from time to time, be able to rest. And when you get rested up, you get strength. And when you get strengthened up, you can go and do for the Lord and be a help to somebody. They had to wander around miserable all them years and die out. Joshua and Caleb, who had confidence, they got to go into that land one day. If you're saved, you know you're going to heaven. But wouldn't it be good to win a few battles on this side of life, see some things, have some more evidence along the way on this side of life? It's all up to us. I heard about the old-timey way and old path, and thank God for it, that there was people who lived and stood for what they believed in and worshiped and left it for the next generation. But don't tell me we can't have that today. We as the people can want, or we can have what we want. It's up to us. So I've said and done enough. I'm going to ask Madison to come get a song. We're going to fellowship one with another. Somebody needs the altar. It's open this morning. Hope and pray it's been a help to you somehow, some way this morning. Be obedient to the Lord. Whatever it is you're dealing with or facing in your life, stand and ask God to show you what it is you need to do. Let Him be a help to you this morning.